I've heard all the stories, and I'm sure you have too, about the origins of fuzz and how musicians achieved that by taking the speakers with razor blades. Now this is something I've always wanted to try, but I wanted to do it in a way that was repeatable and also systematic. So if you wanted to do this again, if there was a sound that you liked, you could do it. I also wanted to use a high quality speaker and something that I was really familiar with. And for the past 20 years, I've owned an Ingle Pro Series cab that's loaded with 2 Celestion Vintage 30s. Now I've used this for loads and loads of gigs. I use it in the workshop every day. It gets hours and hours of use per week. So I'm super familiar with the sound of these speakers and how they feel and all that sort of stuff. So I thought a vintage 30 would be a great choice for this experiment. I ordered this vintage 30 in, I opened it up, I got it straight into the cabinet for around about a week, so it got quite a few hours of actual wear and time. So I wanted to wear it in, just take out a little bit of that stiffness, and it sounded really good. It's sounding really nice now, so now it's time to start slicing it up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make 8 lateral cuts into this cone through the ripply section of the cone itself. And then after that, I think we'll do a few crazier sort of experiments just to see what actually happens. So make sure you stay tuned for that. I'm also going to be doing it with 2 different tones. So we're going to use a clean sound, and we're going to be using a overdrive sound courtesy of our McPherson Antique Overdrive. So the amp I'm using is a prototype I built a few years ago. I have pulled this apart, rebuilt it, modified it, pulled it apart again so many times. I literally have no idea what it is anymore. It's got really good clean headroom, and it's punchy, and it's kind of a perfect amp for this test. The actual wood that it's made out of was 100-year-old floorboards from this old farmhouse that got pulled down by a tornado. So it's kind of cool, kind of a special little amp that I have in the workshop that I use for certain things. The Ingle Pro Series cab that I have is also switchable, so I'm able to isolate each speaker individually. So for this test, the other speaker that's in there is turned off. We're only using just one of those Celestion Vintage 30s. Just so you're aware, I am going to be reconing the speaker. It's not going to just be a waste of a speaker and chucked in the dumpster. I will recone it, and it'll be nice and new again after this. Now make sure, if you haven't, please subscribe to this channel. I've got lots of videos coming up. I've got a really cool one. The next video is going to be about a carbon fiber guitar from the future that I am checking out at the moment. Please hit that subscribe button and let me know what you think in the comments too. If you have any questions, please chuck them down there. I'll try my best to get to those. So let's start with the test. First cut is the deepest. So next I want to try something a little more extreme. I want to start cutting away the cone itself. So taking out a quarter, then half, then 3/4, then removing the entire cone just to see what it sounds like. So as you can hear from what we've just done, cutting it in that way across the cone like that doesn't make as much of a difference. I think if we cut it horizontally or with the shape of the cone, we would have definitely got more of a fuzzy, raspy sort of mechanical fuzz. But the problem with that is eventually, because of the way the speaker works, you just end up ripping the cone. So it's kind of not, there's no longevity to that. But I did really love the tone changes, especially if you're wearing headphones. I mean, that amp was cranked. It was super loud in the workshop here while I was recording that. So that speaker was getting heavily pushed. Honestly, it's pretty amazing what those Celestions can handle. They are built incredibly well. Other speakers with the thinner papery cones would have not been able to handle those cuts like that did. So it kind of goes to show why people choose Celestion and why those speakers are going strong in cabs years and years and years later. But anyway, let's get into those more extreme tests right now and see how they go. For me, there was way less of a tone change than I was expecting. I was expecting, even after the first cut, to hear some really sort of raspy fuzz come through. It's a real testament to Celestion speakers. They are built incredibly well, as you could tell, right down to when we were even pulling out quarter and half of the cone. It still actually worked pretty well. And it goes to show, if you got some damage during a gig, you probably almost wouldn't notice if it was just like a hole or something like that. It was, yeah, really crazy. But I did notice a little bit of fizz coming in once we got through a few more of those cuts. Definitely a more compressed feel when you're playing, something you probably can't hear. And a little bit of top-end roll-off started to occur the more cuts we made. Not so noticeable on the distortion side, but that compression was noticeable for me while I was playing the guitar. So really surprising compared to what I was expecting to get, and actually probably a lot cooler than I was expecting. That sort of raspy mechanical fuzz isn't something I really like, and I was hoping for something a bit more toneful, which is definitely something I got. So it's been a really successful experiment for me, and I've learned a heck of a lot from it. So have a great week, guys. I hope you really enjoyed that. I had a blast again making this video. I've got all sorts of other ideas in the works, so we'll catch you on the next video. Cheers.